I'm Stephen Gillen. Welcome to another episode of The Big Shift. And today I have a special guest, sporting legend who went on to have phenomenal success also in business. It's Sir David Lloyd. So, what do you think in the early years? I mean, you went on to do unbelievable things, IPO, and even more. We'll get into that. But at the start, when you was really trying to get there, and get a foothold and try and learn, what do you think was your best, your most um, strengthening characteristic to help you to really solve these problems?
I think my background in tennis, being a hard working tennis player, not what I call a racket talented player like a McEnroe, I learned that I had to work doubly hard to achieve what I did at tennis. So that background of never giving in, and learning all those lessons to not give in, then you build up a resistance to all these people. When I first had the idea, my friend said, "What are you talking about, David? This is ridiculous." And I fell out with some old friends, but nothing dissuaded me because I knew it would work. And that's what you got to have. You got to have that unbelief, and you got to believe in yourself and never be put off. As long as you've done your homework, don't be put off. And then you learn these lessons, and you learn your lessons from Laurie Barrett. And we nearly went into business with Barrett's Homes all those years ago, and he taught me one thing about land. He just said three things. He said, I said, what are they? He said, location, location, location. And now you hear it all over the place. And he's absolutely right. You can put the greatest thing in the world, if it's in the wrong location, it isn't going to make money. It's as simple as that. And so those sort of lessons you learn along the way, I was a sponge. I asked everybody. People said, people say I use a dictator. That's absolutely. I'm totally the opposite. I ask opinions all the time. I don't always go with them.
Absolutely.
I ask them because they're better than
Questions.
me.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, Ronald Reagan was one of the greatest presidents of the United States, and because he wasn't the brightest guy, but what he did, he appointed the best guys, and that's what he
Yeah.
did. And that's what you have to do. You can't do a business without people. They've got to believe in your dream. These people have got to believe in your dream, and you've got to make them part of that dream. You've got to give them share options. It's got to be a team effort, and they've got to be part of it. Not, when we sold to Whitbread, my company, that I knew everybody. I knew the members. I knew everybody. Suddenly, all my staff became a number, and you know what? I just can't see that's the right way.
This is tough. I read that. That was the first thing where you went IPO, right? And it was 200 million, I think. I read
Yeah.
there. I mean, it may be more or less whatever, David. What they printed, right? About the figures, but and that was the first thing. And then you went on. You rebranded, didn't you?
What happened was we were taken over by Whitbread. You're right, for 201 million. And I thought together, and I told the chief executive of Wood, but I said, your skill of running a massive £3 billion company with your disciplines, and my way of running a company with entrepreneurial skills and very, very strict financial controls, but allowing the people in the business to feel they're part of the business. If you can mold those two together, we're both going to gain. And they looked at me, you know what? And they said to me, we can't do that. I said, why can't you do that? Because they said, well, if you get run over by a bus, what have we got? I said, actually, if I am run over by a bus, my company would survive better than yours. Because if you come and look at all what we do is, we are actually making the people in the business responsible. They make their own decisions under strict guidelines. You don't do that. You're a pyramid. And a
Yeah, another
pyramid,
flat. Yeah.
I believe in flat management and
Yeah,
giving people,
flat,
I
absolutely.
don't
Same
believe
here.
in
With the
pyramids.
information,
Yeah.
tearing,
Well,
coming
all they
coming
do, all
down,
they do is,
David, and
all they
making
do,
people part of
absolutely.
what everyone's doing. So we're all inspired to go the same way and fight for it.
And if you do it the pyramid way, what happens is the guy at the top shields himself from ever making a mistake because he blames the guy underneath him. And that's
Yeah,
what happens.
absolutely.
And they just keep getting new jobs. So I'm thinking, hold on a second, he's just made a mess of that, and he's got another job, he's got another share. I'm thinking, wow, this can't be right. And so that's that's the way you. And after a year with Whitbread, they wouldn't change, uh, and I thought I can't do this anymore. So I left, and I had a non-compete for a year. So when I left, I, I, I said to my oldest son from my first marriage, I said, they're making such a mess of it. I can't, he could have been a pro golfer. I said, it's up to you. I don't care. I can't do anything for a year, and I won't help you, and I won't give you money. But these are 5 people you can call, and I think if you call them and you explain what you want to do, and you can tell them that I will be joining you in a year's time when I'm free to do so, I think you might be able to raise some money. And that's what he did. He raised 25 million from these guys, and Next Generation was formed. We still have
Next
an argument.
generation. Yeah.
We still have an argument
Yeah.
today. Who's found the name? I found the name. He says he found the name. Anyway, actually, the name was found. The name came about from Denver Airport because we used to go skiing, and that's where you used to land. And I went past, kept always when we landed every year past us there was a shop called Next Generation. And that name stuck, and that's why I think it was called Next Generation. And so he ran the business. I went to Australia because I wasn't allowed to do it here in Britain, and I did it in Australia in the same. And that's what happened. And so Next Generation was born. It was so successful compared with the David Lloyd Leisure that we left. We actually bought it, and now it's all David Lloyd Leisure.
With the IPO, the IPO thing, going through that, I mean, everyone would say, obviously, that's a top business level, when you get there. We work with a lot of companies, and we brand them and do a lot of the design and PR and marketing. So they're super clever, and they come to us because, of course, they're trying to get up there where you've been. And one of the things that I've learned is it's all treacherous. It can go wrong at any time, really, especially at that point.
Yep.
Some of these companies, they may be 900K in, David, but they're trying to get that last bit.
Yep.
They need to get that right, and it can really flop even at that point.
You get lucky, but you make your luck. I was very lucky with the IPO that I met a guy called David Cohen, who
Yeah.
was then Smith, Simon and Coates, then he went on to Fleming's. And David and I hit it off straight away. And I learned more from him with the way the city works and what you have to do and how you run the company than anybody. And we still keep in touch. And I got lucky to meet someone that really loved the business and really wanted to help. And I was a sponge. And so I learned from him, and he loved some of the things we did that no other listed company did. And it was a great coming together of two people who had a lot of respect, and he guided us through the IPO and set the price, and he was good. And as I say, we still stay in touch. So without him, we would have met maybe someone who was only in it for the money, and he just wanted his fee, and then they rip you off. Fleming's did a great job. Yes, of course they got paid fees, but they loved it. It was, and the reason why they loved it, it was such a incredible concept, and people, I used to do speeches, and the guy coming in after me, he ran a company selling bolts and nails. So, I mean, it's hard to talk exciting about that, but I can talk about the club and the members, and McEnroe popped in for a cup of coffee. So it's an exciting flotation, and it really was. It was, for a company we listed all those years ago, and it was £70 million, the valuation. But we had Prudential, we had Mercury, we had we had companies, Sun Life, who they normally wouldn't touch a company of that size. They would have to be 50 million minimum themselves. They came in because of the PR of a company they knew was going to go somewhere, plus the fact that it was alive, it was living. It wasn't a nuts and bolts company that no one understood. So we were oversubscribed 7 times. It floated at the right. He did a great job. When you IPO, the skill is and it was David Cohen's skill, is to, on the day of listing, to reach a premium of about 10 to 12%. Because if it's more, you've given your company away, and if it's less, in other words, below listing price, they have to back it up. And
Yeah,
that's
of
always a
course.
bad thing. You never catch up. So,
Yeah.
and he listed it. I went down. I was watching the screen go, David Lloyd Leisure Live, because it was in the old days and it was ticker tapes and stuff. It wasn't all this press a button job.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, and he got his 12% premium. It was spot on.
There's a lot of specialist work there when these people
Oh,
come
yeah. I
in at
mean,
that
amazing.
stage. It's quite a unique specialism at that point. One of the things, and I certainly know this to be true, is what's really important on your journey is the people around you, not
Absolutely.
not just people. I've certainly learned this the hard way, time and time again as well.
Yeah.
Not just people who are in it for the money. Really, you don't want the people who's in it for the money.
No.
Yes, you want them to have the money and the skills, but you want them to have the right character, where they're good, heart-centered people, but they really see it. They
Yeah.
see it, and they'll stand and fall with you. This
Absolutely.
is what, it's just as easy as that. This is what I've learned.
When we floated, we had 4 pages of A4 people in the company who had share options, going down to the cleaner in the kitchen.
Wow, that's
That,
great. Really, that's
I,
wonderful.
when we floated, I'm not exaggerating. When I floated, I would sometimes get a call, a guy, maybe the bar manager at Heston or whatever. Hey, David, what's happened today? The share price went down 5p because I had shares.
That's
And
great. That's great.
so we created something very special, and which I didn't know this, by the way, but our life as a company is actually a university degree.
No, yeah, I see it. I really do. It's
It's
fascinating.
actually two people have done that. One was Bristol, which my son was giving it, Scott,
Yeah.
and the other one was a chap who went to another London university. It's the perfect model. Startup business, bring in new investors. The first one goes out, the second one comes in, the IPO, and then the trade sale up there. So we ticked all the boxes, but that's by pure chance and by having the right people around you giving you the advice
As you go through.
and
Yeah, yeah,
giving
absolutely.
people something they really feel is theirs.
Oh, do you know, it's such a wonderful story because, this is my learning, David. Even now, I mean, I'm all in on I come with the right energy, which I've always found is absolutely key as we go out into creation to build, because doors open in this strange way when you're coming with the
Yeah,
right energies and the right heart. You can be as strong as you like and as tough as you like, as long as you have the end in mind, and it's a good ending. It's
yeah.
it's it's not a selfish ending. It's a creative ending as well. Obviously, that's a wonderful lesson as well for people. Is I mean, I've always seen as well. And you've just highlighted it there many times, that really strong, really successful companies are built by people, by the right people,
Yeah.
and getting them people involved, really involved, in the
You know,
right ways.
and I believe the flat management with a box that they're in charge of, and they make their own decisions. They have their own, because otherwise you do get this pyramid, and I don't think pyramids work. I mean, I've seen them, and when Whitbread took us over, they said, oh, we're happy with a 9% internal rate of return. I said, I wouldn't get out of bed for 20. So what are you doing? I mean, yeah, oh yes, but I said, no, it doesn't work like that. You don't have to have that pyramid mentality, whereby they used to have an executive meeting every week where at least 30 people sat round the table. And I said, what are you guys doing? You're all taking a day out. I mean, it's mind blowing. And it's just a complete waste of time. And you can't buy time. A great poem, fill 60 seconds worth of distance run. Every second counts. You know,
David, honestly, it's so good to hear you speak because, I mean, looks good, doesn't it? All these people around
ah,
there, but what actually is being done here, and you know what? Honest to God, I always say one of my things is time is the greatest commodity we have. When I learned that, my whole life pivoted because I suddenly realized how precious it was, even in my quality time, the people I would let into my circle, who I would spend time with. was just so important. It all changed for me, David. The background we come from, I think, shapes us as well to
Yeah.
be very grounded, towards things.
So we've been, and people say to me, oh yeah, so now we're now in America now, and we've come here to start a new life. I've got a younger son and a lovely wife, and he's gone to school here. And the reason we were allowed to get here was because of him, because he got a scholarship to a school that is a special school, and that got us. He got the visa, and we're in on the back of his visa. So because you couldn't get there because of COVID anyway. So we're here. We're starting a new business here. We're doing clubs here in Florida, which are air conditioned. We've got the sites. We're also doing an adventure world, which is absolutely spectacular, whereby you do rides, you do zip lines, you do everything under one. I'm a great believer in if you're going to do leisure, it's got to be indoor and outdoor, because it doesn't matter where you are. In Britain, it's because it gets cold and wet in the winter, where in Florida, it gets too hot in the summer. So you need so you balance it. And if it's indoor and outdoor, you're not dependent upon the seasons to your income. When we first opened Heston, I charged for indoor tennis. And I used to pray for rain, because if it didn't rain, they wouldn't come indoors because it was 10 quid. And I thought, I can't be dependent upon the weather. Ball became one of the greatest players of all time because he took the biggest obstacle out of play. He took the net out of play. He invented a spin that he could hit the ball 2 meters above the net, and it used to bounce so high. So the biggest thing in tennis is your net. If you hit it in your net, you've lost the point. So he took that obstacle out. So we took the weather out. It's very logical. So if you take the weather out of your equation, you're not dependent on looking at, oh my God, what's that weather going to do today? In fact, you make the weather work for you. For example, in Britain, all the clubs are geared, maybe not now, but they were, to look at the long-range forecast for the weekend. And if it looked like it was going to be sunny, all the barbecues, all the ice cream, everything came into the club, so you milked it at weekends. So you've got to be in front of the game. And so the indoor and outdoor way is without doubt the best way. And it's more expensive because you've got to find more land and it costs more to build. But that's why David Lloyd Leisure to this day is still around. We started in 1982 and it's still expanding because it's indoor and outdoor.
Throughout a really exceptional, amazing life, really, honestly. Of all the things you've done, you're unbelievably hardworking and grounded. I get that, and you've navigated your way to phenomenal success in everything you've pretty much done. Right, that's very, very fair to say. Through all of that, David, what do you think has been your hardest kind of adversity to overcome? Just one thing, maybe something that kept coming back, or something that was hard for you.
Hull was very hard. Hull was very hard, and it taught me a lesson where there are places, and there are still places in Britain that have tribal sorts of actions. One, Celtic and Rangers. One, Manchester United, Manchester City.
Yeah.
In Hull, it was Hull football against Hull rugby. And my whole thesis of buying Hull was a property play, but to give something back to Hull, which was the new stadium. And I had all the land and I had the council on board. What I didn't work out was the fact that by offering these people of Hull the chance to play in a brand new stadium, so it's going to be rugby and football, brand new, lots of shops around it, everything there, and the money that I made from selling the two sites I owned, because I owned the rugby and I owned the football, that money had to go back into the new development. I couldn't take it out. That was a legal agreement. I only made it down the line, way down the line, and it was a war. I mean, my car used to get scratched. I came up. I had proper
God
death threats.
Almighty.
I had proper death threats.
No way.
Cut out with. I mean, like you see in the film. I didn't realise they existed, but I got them,
Yeah.
and I thought,
Right.
wow, I got to get out of here. So that's why I got out, and then
Yeah.
I rented the stadium, and the guy didn't pay the rent, so I closed the door, so he couldn't play the match. So I'm hated there, but all I was trying to do was to give them something new and something better. And what happened was my dream actually happened, and it happened because Hull was the only city in England, in Britain actually, that had its own telecommunications. Kingston Communications. And they sold it, they went public for 4 billion. That's Hull. Kingston Communications was owned by Hull Council. And so suddenly the council got 4 billion. So they built the stadium. So that new stadium, exactly on the land that I had, so the dream is there, and I created that, but I left. So now when I see Hull, I'm pleased they got a new stadium. And they did manage to get the tribal bit out of the way. They maybe got it out of the way because it was done by the council and not by some southerner. So that was probably why. But it was sad because it was an incredible plan and a very ambitious plan, and it was all the pieces were there. But these people wouldn't allow it to happen, so I left.
What is next then for David Lloyd?
We're here now full time in America. I've got to come back and get my working visa. I formed a company with an ex-tennis player called Johan Creek, who won the Australian Open. And we've got the sites. The first plan is to do a sort of a David Lloyd, it's not going to be called David Lloyd, a David Lloyd type club with all the indoor facilities, the swimming pools, etc., etc. And the other one is this adrenaline world, which is high action, you do it, roller gliders, zip lines, bungee jumping, trampolines. So we've got the finance virtually in place. We've got the land. So this time next year, if you give me a call, we might do the Zoom call on a roller glider. You can see us flying around the building. So that's what we're doing.
I look forward to that, David, really. And let me say, look, thank you very much for coming on The Big Shift and discussing an extraordinary, amazing life and the highs and lows of an exceptional journey. So David Lloyd, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, guys, to a wonderful new segment of The Big Shift with Stephen Gillen. Make sure to subscribe, go into stephengillen.com and sign up for more wonderful content to expedite, help and support you on your own personal journey of success.